What if I told you that within just 1 month, November 2025, events are about to unfold that could shake everything we believe about faith, the economy, and even the direction of humanity itself? These aren't random predictions from self-proclaimed prophets. They come directly from the teachings, parables, and patterns. Jesus revealed signs that point not to fear, but to preparation and awareness. Whether you believe in divine intervention or see history as a repeating cycle, these next few moments will make you look at the world around you in an entirely new way. Let's break down exactly what Jesus revealed, what these 4 events could mean, and how they might already be unfolding quietly right in front of us. You know, it's late October 2025 as I'm speaking to you now. The leaves are falling. The days are getting shorter. And there's something in the air that feels different this year. Maybe you felt it too. A kind of tension. A sense that the world is holding its breath before something significant happens. And you're not alone in that feeling. Across the globe, people are noticing the same thing. Growing unrest in international affairs, unpredictable swings in financial markets, and a moral conversation that seems louder and more urgent than it's been in decades. Now, I'm not here to sell you fear or push some doomsday scenario. That's not what this is about. What I want to do is walk through history with you, look at the patterns that have repeated over and over, and explore what Jesus himself said about times like these. Because here's the thing. Throughout human history, major turning points have rarely been random. They cluster. They align. They arrive when conditions are ripe for change. Think about it. The fall of empires, the birth of new movements, the moments when entire societies wake up and realize they've been walking in the wrong direction. These shifts don't happen in a vacuum. They happen when economic systems crack, when moral clarity returns, when people start asking the hard questions again. And right now in late 2025, all those ingredients are present. This is what I call divine timing. Not superstition, not mysticism for its own sake, but cause and consequence, actions and reactions. Seeds planted long ago finally breaking through the soil. Jesus understood this better than anyone. He spoke in patterns, in cycles, in metaphors that transcended time. And if you know how to read those patterns, you start to see the map he left behind. To understand what may happen next month, we first need to understand what Jesus actually said about the world's cycles. See, Jesus wasn't just a spiritual teacher giving vague advice about being nice to each other. He was describing systems that he was identifying warning signs. He talked about wars and rumors of wars. He spoke of birth pains, those early contractions that signal something new is about to be born. He mentioned the fig tree blooming as a sign of changing seasons. These weren't riddles meant to confuse. They were coded lessons, frameworks for recognizing when the world was entering a new phase. And here's what's fascinating. These teachings aren't stuck in the past, they're timeless. Jesus warned about moral decay, about economic deception, about the danger of building your life on shaky ground. He spoke of spiritual awakening, of hearts turning back toward what really matters. He described global testing, moments when humanity as a whole would be forced to choose a direction. Does any of that sound familiar? Because when you look around today, you see every single one of those themes playing out in real time. We're watching institutions we thought were solid start to crack. We're seeing people question systems they once trusted without hesitation. We're witnessing a generation, your generation, my generation, all of us beginning to wonder if we've been chasing the wrong things for too long. When you align those ancient clues with modern data, a timeline begins to emerge and November 2025 sits right in the center of it. So let's talk about the first event. I call it the fall of false security. Jesus told a parable that most of us have heard at some point. It's about 2 men who each built a house. One built his house on rock-solid foundation, deep and stable. The other built his house on sand. And for a while both houses looked fine. They probably looked identical from the outside. But then the storms came. The winds blew. The rains fell and the house built on sand, it collapsed completely. Now Jesus wasn't giving construction advice. He was talking about what we build our lives on, what we trust, what we think is secure. And right now in October 2025, we're living in a world where a lot of houses are built on sand and the storm clouds are gathering. Think about the financial systems we've come to rely on. For years, we've been told that endless growth is possible, that debt doesn't matter, that complex digital currencies and leverage markets are the future. But what happens when trust in those systems starts to erode? What happens when people realize that the foundation isn't as solid as they were promised? November 2025 could be the moment when one of those sandy foundations gives way. It might be a sudden market correction, something that catches everyone off guard. It might be a digital currency crisis where people who put all their faith in technology wake up to find their security was just ones and zeros that someone else controlled. Or it could be a political exposure, a revelation that shakes public trust in leadership and institutions. I'm not saying the entire economy will collapse overnight. That's not how these things usually work. But there are cracks forming. And Jesus warned about this exact scenario. He said, "Don't store up treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, where thieves break in and steal." He was telling us that anything built on greed, on deception, on shallow promises, it won't last. And you know what? That's not actually bad news. Stay with me here. Because while it's uncomfortable to watch systems tremble, it's also necessary. You can't build something new and solid on a rotten foundation. Sometimes the false security has to fall away so that real security, the kind built on truth, integrity, and substance, can take its place. This first event isn't about fear. It's about exposure. It's about reality catching up with illusion. And for those who've been living carefully, who haven't put all their trust in things that glitter but have no weight, this moment will feel less like a crisis and more like a confirmation. You'll be the ones who saw it coming. You'll be the ones who built on rock. But while systems may tremble, the next event isn't about collapse. It's about awakening. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a person who's been living far from home for years. They left with confidence, maybe even arrogance, thinking they'd make it big on their own terms. They spent everything they had on shallow pleasures, empty pursuits, things that looked good but left them hollow. And then one day, broken, sitting in the mud, they have a moment of clarity. They remember who they are. They remember where they came from, and they decide to go home. That's the parable of the prodigal son. And I believe November 2025 is when millions of people experience their own version of that moment. This is the second event, the Great Awakening of Conscience. moment for what it is, a turning point. And yet, while the world looks outward at the storms, something even more profound begins to unfold inwardly. This brings us to the fourth event, and in many ways the most important one. It's not loud. It's not something you'll see on the news. It won't trend on social media, but it will be felt by those who are paying attention, by those whose hearts are open. This is the revelation of the heart. Imagine waking up one morning and feeling different. Not sick, not necessarily happy, just different, that there's a pull inside you, a quiet voice you haven't heard in years, maybe decades. It's asking you questions. What have you been living for? What really matters? What would you do differently if you had the chance? And instead of pushing those questions away like you usually do, you sit with them. You listen. That's what this fourth event is about. It's personal. It's intimate, that it's millions of people all over the world experiencing a deep internal shift, a pull toward truth, toward simplicity, toward meaning. Some might call it repentance. Not in the guilt-ridden sense, but in the true meaning of the word, which is to turn around, to change direction, to realign yourself with what's real. Jesus said, "The kingdom of God is within you, not out there, not in some distant heaven you have to wait for. Within, right now, accessible, present." And November 2025 might be when countless people rediscover that inner kingdom. When they stop looking outside themselves for validation, for purpose, for peace, and realize it's been inside them all along. This isn't a global spectacle. There won't be a news headline that says millions experience spiritual awakening, but it will happen quietly, in prayer, in reflection, in conversations that go deeper than usual, in decisions to forgive, to let go, to start fresh. In the simple, profound realization that life is short and what we do with it matters. You might be experiencing hints of this already. Maybe you've been thinking about people you haven't spoken to in years. Maybe you've been feeling drawn to old values, old truths you once believed but let slip away. Maybe you've been less interested in the trivial and more interested in the eternal. That's not coincidence. That's the revelation of the heart beginning to unfold. But to recognize any of this, you have to understand one crucial principle: discernment. Let's be honest, we live in an age of noise. Everywhere you turn, someone's shouting at you. Buy this. Believe that. Be afraid of this. Be angry about that. The news tells you one thing, your neighbor tells you another. And the internet tells you 1,000 contradictory things all at once. It's exhausting. And it's designed to be, because when you're confused, when you're overwhelmed, you stop thinking clearly. You react instead of respond. You follow instead of lead. Jesus knew this would happen. He said, "Be wise as serpents and harmless as doves." In other words, be smart. Be discerning. Don't be naive, but don't be cruel either. Learn to see through manipulation. Learn to recognize truth even when it's unpopular. Learn to distinguish between what's real and what's just noise designed to control you. Discernment is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. It requires you to slow down, to ask questions, to test things against what you know to be true deep in your core. Does this align with love? Does this align with integrity? Does this align with the teachings I was raised with? The values I know matter. Let me give you a practical example. You see a headline that makes your blood boil. It tells you to be outraged at a certain group of people. Discernment asks, who benefits from my outrage? What am I not seeing? Is this the whole story or just a piece designed to provoke me? And more importantly, would Jesus react this way? Or would he pause, seek understanding, and respond with wisdom? That's discernment. And in the coming weeks, as November unfolds and these four events begin to manifest in various ways, discernment will be your most valuable tool, because there will be fear-mongering. There will be people trying to profit off chaos. There will be voices telling you to panic, to hoard, to distrust everyone. And discernment will help you see through all of that and remain grounded in truth. Spiritual discernment isn't about being religious. It's about being awake. It's about seeing clearly when others are blinded by emotion or agenda. And that brings us to the deeper reason these four events matter. It's not just what happens, but how we respond. Think about the story of Jesus calming the storm. His disciples were in a boat and a violent storm came up. Waves were crashing over the sides. These were experienced fishermen and they were terrified. They thought they were going to die. And Jesus, he was asleep in the back of the boat. They woke him up panicking, shouting, "Don't you care? They were perishing." And Jesus stood up, looked at the storm and said, "Peace, be still," and the storm stopped. Then he turned to his disciples and asked, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" Here's the lesson. Faith isn't tested when everything is comfortable. Faith is tested when the storm is raging. When the world feels out of control, when it looks like everything is falling apart, that's when you find out what you're really made of. Do you react with panic or do you respond with calm, centered faith? November 2025 will be a test. Not a punishment but a test. A moment when we collectively decide, are we going to be ruled by fear, or are we going to rise above it? Are we going to let circumstances dictate our emotions, or are we going to remain anchored in something deeper? This is the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is instant, emotional, thoughtless. Someone pushes you, you push back. A headline scares you, you panic. A system fails, you collapse with it. But response is different. Response takes a breath. Response asks, what's really happening here? Response chooses a course of action based on values, not impulses. And here's what I've learned. The ones who see clearly during chaos, the ones who remain calm when everyone else is losing their minds, those are the ones who will rebuild what comes next. You've lived through crises before. You've seen wars, recessions, cultural upheavals. You know that panic doesn't help. You know that fear makes everything worse. And you know that the people who make it through are the ones who keep their heads, who help their neighbors, who hold on to hope even when it's hard. Because the ones who see clearly during chaos are the ones who will rebuild what comes next. So, how do you prepare for November 2025? How do you get ready for these 4 events, whether they unfold exactly as described or in ways we can't yet predict? Here's the truth. Preparation isn't about stockpiling supplies or building bunkers. I mean, practical readiness is fine. It's smart to have some basics on hand, but true preparation begins internally. It starts with your mind and your spirit. First, cultivate awareness. Pay attention. Don't bury your head in the sand, but don't drown in fear-based media either. Stay informed, but stay balanced. Notice what's happening in the world, in your community, in your own heart. Awareness gives you a head start. It lets you see the signs before they become crises. Second, practice compassion. As things shift and change, people around you will be scared. They'll be confused. They'll need kindness, not judgment. They'll need a steady hand, not a pointing finger. Your ability to remain compassionate in the midst of uncertainty will not only help others, it will anchor you. Because when you give comfort, you receive peace. Third, reduce fear. I can't stress this enough. Fear is a liar. It magnifies problems and shrinks solutions. It makes you small when you need to be strong. So actively work against it. When fear whispers, what if everything falls apart? Answer it with, then I'll do what I've always done. I'll adapt. I'll help. I'll endure. Fear loses its power when you face it with truth. Fourth, build or strengthen community. You're not meant to go through this alone. Connect with family. Reach out to old friends. Be present in your neighborhood, your church, your circles. Because when things get uncertain, the people who have strong relationships are the ones who thrive. Isolation makes everything harder. Community makes everything bearable. And finally, align yourself with conscience and purpose. This is the big one. Ask yourself, what am I living for? If November brings the changes Jesus described, will I be ready not because I have the right supplies, but because I have the right heart? Am I living with integrity? Am I pursuing what truly matters? Am I right with the people I love, right with my Creator, right with myself? True preparedness isn't about surviving. It's about being the kind of person who helps others survive. It's about having something solid inside you that can't be shaken no matter what's shaking outside. And when preparation meets revelation, a new kind of hope begins to form. See, here's what Jesus really intended with all his warnings and prophecies. He wasn't trying to scare people. He wasn't counting down to disaster. He was issuing a wake-up call. He was saying, don't sleepwalk through life. Don't build on sand. Don't store up things that won't last. Don't ignore your conscience. Wake up. Pay attention. Evolve. Prophecy at its core is an invitation to change before you have to. It's a loving warning. It's God saying, I'm showing you where this path leads. You still have time to choose a different one. So, these 4 events in November 2025, the fall of false security, the awakening of conscience, the earth's response, the revelation of the heart, they're not meant to destroy. They're meant to restore, to strip away what's fake so what's real can shine. To clear the clutter so we can see what matters. To shake us awake so we stop wasting the precious time we have. Jesus' true message was always restoration, not destruction. Even when he talked about the end times, he framed it as a new beginning. Old things passing away, all things becoming new. The question isn't whether change is coming. It is. The question is, will you resist it and break, or will you flow with it and grow? Every event, every challenge, every moment of uncertainty is pointing you toward personal and collective renewal, toward becoming who you were always meant to be, toward a life of greater integrity, deeper love, and truer purpose. So now we arrive at the question everyone's been asking. What should we actually do? Live the message. Move forward with purpose. Here's my invitation to you as we head into November. Don't just watch and wait. Don't just brace for impact. Choose to live differently starting now. Start each day with intention. Ask yourself, how can I be a little more honest today, a little more kind, a little more present? Reflect on your life. Are there relationships you need to mend? Conversations you've been avoiding, truths you need to speak or hear? Don't wait for a crisis to force your hand. Do it now. While there's time, while it still counts, live with greater integrity. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. Don't compromise your values for comfort or convenience. Stand for what's right even when it's hard. Because when the storms come, the people who've been living with integrity are the ones who remain standing. Increase your awareness. Read, think, pray, meditate. Whatever centers you and sharpens your mind, do more of it. Stay curious. Stay humble. Stay open to learning. The world is changing fast and rigid thinking breaks. Flexible, aware thinking bends and adapts. Cultivate faith, not blind faith but grounded faith. Faith that says, I don't know exactly what's coming, but I trust that I have what it takes to face it. Faith that says there's a bigger picture I can't see yet, but I'm part of it and my part matters. And remember, destiny isn't fixed. Humanity still writes the next chapter. Yes, patterns repeat. Yes, consequences follow actions. But we're not helpless. Every choice you make, every word you speak, every act of kindness or courage, it all matters. You're not just watching history unfold. You're shaping it. The signs aren't warnings to fear. They're invitations to rise. So, as November 2025 approaches, remember, prophecy isn't about panic, it's about perspective. These 4 events, whether you see them as spiritual metaphors or literal outcomes, point to the same truth: humanity is being asked to evolve, to wake up, and to return to what truly matters. That if this message helped you think differently about what's happening in the world, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for future insights, and share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you believe these 4 events could mean. Your perspective might help someone else see the bigger picture too. You've lived through enough to know that every ending is also a beginning. Every storm eventually clears. Every dark night gives way to dawn. November 2025 is not the end. It's a turning point. And you, yes, you are part of what comes next. Walk into it with eyes open, heart steady, and spirit strong. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being the kind of person who seeks understanding instead of hiding from it. The world needs more people like you. Now go live well, love deeply, and remember the kingdom of God is within.